So you're making the big move to Austin, Texas, and naturally you are weighing all of the various areas that Austin has to offer. Well, in this video, we are going to be talking about one of the boomtowns of the greater Austin area, which is Hutto, Texas. More specifically, we are going to be getting into the pros and cons and some basic information that you might want to know before planning your move. And if that's the reason you clicked on this video, be sure to stay tuned because we're getting after it right now. Hello again, everybody. If this is your first time to the channel, my name is Frank and I'm part of the team at the award-winning J.B. Goodwin Brokerage right here in the easy breezy Austin, Texas. Each and every week we put out tons of new content all in regards to living in Austin, Texas, whether it be the pros and cons, the cost of living, vlog tours of certain areas and suburbs, comparisons of cities and states, and so much more. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel and ringing that little bell so that you're notified each and every time we put out a new video. In addition, we get reach outs all the time from people just like you who are in need of our help when relocating to this great city of Austin, Texas. We love learning your lifestyle and placing you in that perfect spot, making your move as smooth as possible. But the only way we can do that for you is by you reaching out. So do not hesitate, whether you're 9 days away or 90, go ahead and shoot us a text, send us an email, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. So as mentioned, we are going to be talking about Hutto, Texas. And a quick little overview for you guys. Even though the city of Austin is rather small when compared to the Houstons of the world or the Dallases of the world, the greater Austin area, the totality of it, is more large than you would expect. Obviously, you're going to have your historic South Austin, you're going to have your more wealthy West Austin, you're going to have your more artistic East Austin, your more central campus living for the University of Texas, and then you've got North Austin, which is very much the tech corridor. You've got Cedar Park, Texas, you've got Round Rock, Texas, you've got Pflugerville, Texas, Leander, Texas, Georgetown, Liberty Hill, and the list goes on and on. But one of these places that really doesn't get talked about too much because it has been flying under the radar for such a long time is Hutto, Texas. And for reference, Hutto, Texas in relation to downtown is going to be northeast. So you're going to find it very near Round Rock and very near Pflugerville. And even as recently as 5 to 10 years ago, no one was talking about Hutto. It was honestly, not to be offensive to anyone living there, but it was kind of an afterthought for the longest time. But being a local Austinite for so many years and being in this industry of real estate, just in the past few years alone, we've seen Hutto go from not talked about and unknown to rapidly growing in popularity. However, not yet to the level of popularity as, say, Round Rock or Georgetown, which is actually one of the more attractive features that Hutto has to offer. So naturally, that begs the question, why is everyone all of a sudden wanting to move to Hutto? But before I get to the pros of Hutto, highlighting all the great things about it and why so many people are choosing to move there over so many of the other popular suburbs, I'm going to address the cons. If you've been a longtime subscriber on this channel, by now you should know that I keep it brutally honest. I like to be consistent and I don't enjoy sugarcoating anything. And just a quick disclaimer, if you're wanting something more in depth, we did make another video about Hutto called Everything You Need to Know Before Moving to Hutto, Texas. It is going to be a longer video, whereas in this one, as mentioned, we are just gonna go over some of the quick pros and cons to give you more of a brief basic understanding to help you as you're weighing all of your various options. So without further ado, let's get the negativity out of the way and start with our very first con, which is going to be the distance from Hutto to either downtown or the Domain area. So if you are someone who's going to be relocating to Austin, Texas, and you already know that you're going to want to enjoy the fruits of Austin, Texas and all that it has to offer, whether it be the museums, the music venues, the scenery, the hiking adventures, so on and so forth, most of which are located within the downtown metro area, Hutto might not be for you. As mentioned, Hutto is northeast of downtown Austin, but it is not just 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes even northeast. No. Hutto, depending on where in Hutto specifically, is going to be closer to 30 or 40 minutes removed from the downtown metro area. And if you like your shopping, for example, your restaurants, your eateries, your bar strips, all of which are located at the Domain, which is another staple of the greater Austin area, as well, you're going to be 25 to 35 minutes removed. So in my opinion, I would consider that a con, but that is subjective because the truth of the matter is a lot of people that we've helped as well have told us they prefer to be removed from the city. They like to have it within a relative arm's reach if they want to dabble in it and enjoy what it has to offer, but otherwise they don't want to be stuck in the thick of it, in the hustle and bustle of the city. So the distance and the proximity from downtown might suit you perfectly, but for many of you it might be a major drawback, which is why it is our first con on the list. And with that said, we will naturally segue to con number 2, which is the unfortunate fact that Hutto, Texas really doesn't have any major employers. So, in addition to what I just mentioned, if you are relocating to Austin, Texas, and you already know that you're either going to be working in the tech corridor near the Domain or you're going to be based out of downtown, that's something to think about as well. The commute is going to be quite a headache. A lot of the clients we've helped who are going to be working from either of those very popular areas but don't want to be living in those areas might consider Cedar Park, or they might consider Pflugerville, or even Round Rock for that matter. But Hutto itself, as mentioned, is just so far out there. The silver lining, however, is that if you are going to be living in Leander, you're likely not going to be taking 183 or I-35, which are the two main arteries of travel within Texas and the greater Austin area. So at least you won't have to worry as much about traffic getting clogged up, about horrific rush hour, so on and so forth. Another silver lining I might add is that a majority of the clients we help, truthfully, come from the coasts. So for example, if you're coming from, say, San Francisco, and you are used to such a dense population and your daily commute being at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours just to get to work and then another 1 to 2 hours to get back from work, you're gonna look at the distance from Hutto to downtown and think, oh my gosh, 30 minutes, give or take, is a breeze. But I realize that does not apply to everyone. You might be moving from a great situation where you're only 5, 10, 15 minutes away from work, and this might be a rude awakening for you, so I thought it might be worth mentioning. And lastly, I'd like to mention that ever since COVID happened, so many people have realized they have the luxury of working from home. And that has led to a spike, to a boom of people who are relocating all over the country. So the truth of the matter is a commute might not apply to many of you, as many of the clients we've helped have told us, hey, it doesn't matter how far away from the city we are, as long as the home we buy has a home office. In that case, Hutto would be a perfect fit for you. Moving on to con number 3, it's going to be the subject of the schools. And before I get into it, I will say the schools in Hutto are respectable. They are good schools, so I'm not necessarily attacking them. However, in the greater Austin area, you are going to have a number of school districts that are ranked better. For example, according to niche.com, the top 3 in the greater Austin area are going to be the Eanes Independent School District, which is much smaller, located in the more exclusive areas of West Austin, closer to the Westlake Hills. And then you'll have the Leander Independent School District and the Round Rock Independent School District, both of which serve between 30 to 40,000 students with superb graduation rates, ACT and SAT test scores. These school districts, for example, will have brand new state-of-the-art auditoriums. They'll have brand new football stadiums because Texans love their football, and so much more that really establishes them as the cream of the crop school district choices within the greater Austin area. So on niche.com, those 3, for example, are going to be getting a letter grade, ironically, of either an A+, an A, or maybe at worst an A-, with more specifically the schools within the districts getting 7.5 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10, or a 9 out of 10. So when it comes to Hutto, Texas, which is going to be by default one of these smaller areas in comparison to, say, the Round Rocks of the world, the school district is going to follow suit. It really is like Hutto in its infancy, so there is going to be lots of room to grow, but as it stands right now, according to niche.com, Hutto gets, I think, around a letter grade of a B, and many of the schools within the districts are going to be 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10, and yes, you're going to have some better schools as well. Though something I'd like to say about niche.com, in my own opinion, is that the way it ranks and grades the schools is not necessarily going to reflect the schools more specifically. It's going to include the median income around the areas, how nice the areas are, how new the areas are. So take it with a grain of salt. Now, before moving on to the rest of this list, go ahead and drop a comment down below. If you have any agreements, disagreements, questions for us, or ideas for future videos, drop them all down below so that we can get involved with you guys. In addition to that, consider liking this video as well, as it really helps our channel grow and tells us that we're doing a good enough job providing some value for you. And lastly, if there's anyone in your life, a parent, a friend, a spouse, a child, anyone you know who is considering a move to Austin, Texas and would like to learn more, go ahead and share our content with them and spread the good word. All right, so con number 4 of Hutto Texas is something I mention in a lot of our videos, so forgive me for mentioning it one more time. It's going to be the subject of the property taxes. There are a number of big reasons why people relocate to Austin, Texas. One of those reasons being the schools, one of those reasons being the tech jobs, one of those reasons being the bang for your buck affordability in comparison to the coasts, and the biggest reason, perhaps arguably of all, is going to be the no state income tax. So with the relative affordability and with the no state income tax, how does Texas make its money? What's the flip side of the coin? What's the fine print? What's the terms and conditions you just blindly hit accept? The property taxes. In Portland, Oregon, for example, it's very common to find a property tax rate of 1% or maybe 1.5%. As soon as you relocate to Austin, Texas, you'll find that those days are long gone. The lowest you can get in the greater Austin area is going to be more downtown metro, and that's going to be closer to 2%, maybe 2.3 or 2.4. But when you get to the Huttos of the world, the Leanders of the world, the Round Rocks of the world, so on and so forth, you can expect property tax rates of at least 2.5%. Hutto itself is going to be between 2.6 and 2.7, and oftentimes you'll find in a lot of newer areas 2.9 or even above 3%. So what this means is, let's say you buy a home and its assessed value is $350,000 and you lock it in at a modest 2.5% property tax rate. Each and every year you're going to be paying just shy of $9,000. So imagine if you get 2.75 and your assessed value is not 350, but let's say you get a house closer to 800,000. What you pay per year is going to be absolutely outrageous, so it does balance out the no state income tax in that regard. I don't say that to deter you or to dissuade you, but rather to keep you informed so that you're not blindsided when you're making such a big decision. So our 5th and final con for Hutto, Texas is going to be the things to do. And again, if you are living in Hutto, Texas, I don't mean to offend, but the truth of the matter is, it really is still in its infancy. It is quite small when compared to the other suburban areas of Austin, Texas. So while it is true that Hutto has its own hub where you can have your boutique shops and your little bars and things of that nature that you can do, and it has a number of parks and outdoorsy activities as well, at the end of the day, it's not going to have much more than that. If you're wanting to have fun things to do, you're going to find yourself going to either downtown Austin, which as I mentioned is quite a drive, or you're going to find yourself driving to the neighboring town of Round Rock, Texas, which is going to have the largest indoor water park in the country. It's going to have Dell Diamond. It's going to have the Round Rock Premium Outlets. So many things to do there, which really makes Round Rock one of the destinations barring downtown or barring the Domain. Am I saying it's going to be like that forever? Absolutely not, because as mentioned, Hutto is a boom town. It is on the rise and it is set to explode. But as it stands right now, as of the making of this video in August of 2021, you might get bored if you're someone who likes to fill their free time with eclectic, fun things to do. So with the subjective negativity out of the way, let us move on to the pros of Hutto, Texas and why it would seem so many people are choosing to move there. Pro number 1, and arguably the biggest of all in favor of Hutto, is going to be its affordability. If you are wanting to live in the suburbs of Austin, Texas, you're not really desiring the downtown life or the Domain area tech life, and you're looking at the Round Rocks, the Leanders, the Georgetowns, the Cedar Parks of the world, most often you're going to find median home prices that range between $450,000 upwards of $500,000. You're going to find that in Cedar Park, for example, or Round Rock. But the thing about Hutto is that it's always been one of the more affordable options in comparison. Your average median home price in Hutto is going to range closer to $350,000 upwards of $400,000 in comparison to these more popular suburban areas. So let's say you're coming from Manhattan, for example, and you've got perhaps $400,000 to $500,000 to spend and buy big in Austin, Texas. Well, now because of the market in 2021, $500,000 might get you 3 or 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms in Cedar Park or in Round Rock, but that $500,000 in Hutto might get you 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, maybe a pool, maybe near a golf course or within walking distance of the schools that your children go to. Not to say you won't find that same bang for your buck in the other suburbs of Austin, Texas, but because of their demand and their popularity, you have a bigger chance of finding it in Hutto, Texas. Pro number 2 in favor of Hutto, Texas is going to be the plans that it has for its future. As I mentioned, as it currently stands, there's just not that much to do in Hutto, Texas. However, similar to Leander, Texas, which is probably the other boomtown that Austin currently has to offer, its future looks fairly bright. In addition to the new restaurants, for example, that are popping up all over Hutto, and in addition to the gigantic sports facilities that are currently in development in Hutto, perhaps the biggest plan of development as it currently stands for Hutto is going to be something called the Co-op. And if you know anything about the Domain, which is a staple of Austin, Texas, the Co-op is supposed to mimic that. You're going to find similar restaurants, bar strips, movies, and an abundance of shopping. Even the sign for the Co-op directly mimics the Domain sign. So what that means for Hutto is going to be an influx of people, a boom in the economy, more diversity, and likely significant appreciation if you are a homeowner or an investor. And on that note, we will naturally segue to the next pro on this list, which is going to be the growth and timing of Hutto, Texas. If you are planning a big move to Austin, Texas, and you are weighing your different options of where to live, one of the biggest strengths and pros in favor of Hutto is that the time is now. Similar to Leander, as mentioned, Hutto is on the rise. Cedar Park, for example, had its rise and then it's mellowed out. Round Rock, for example, had its explosion and it's still quite popular, but it's relatively mellowed out, with Pflugerville and Georgetown following suit as well. But the truth of the matter is that Hutto hasn't even reached its prime yet. It hasn't even exploded the way most people anticipate yet. So if you are relocating here and you're wanting to plant your roots in a place while it is still affordable and relatively under the radar, Hutto is perfect for you. So for example, if you are an investor or perhaps you have the type of job where you see yourself relocating every 3, 5, 7 years, for example, it might be a wise decision to buy in Hutto now, wait for the explosion, and then sell and make quite a hefty profit. I might not have a crystal ball, but that relatively affordable median home price right now is not going to last, especially as the totality of Austin, Texas just continues to spike with the market we're seeing. Moving on to pro number 4, and that's going to be all of the new builds and development that Hutto is seeing. As I mentioned, the average median home price in Hutto, Texas is going to be roughly between $350,000 and $400,000, being right around the $375,000 or $380,000 mark. But interestingly, that reflects more the new builds than it does the pre-owned homes on the market. If you're browsing pre-owned homes in Hutto, Texas, most of them are going to be on average between $400,000 and $500,000, with much of the new builds being priced towards the lower $300,000s before options, of course. So if you're looking at Hutto, Texas on the map and specifically comparing it to Pflugerville, to Round Rock, to Cedar Park, to Georgetown, you're going to see quite a lot of green surrounding it. And what does that mean? Wide open land for people to build brand new communities and brand new homes, spitting out tons of them each and every month. So if you are the type of buyer who does prefer a new build, not all of you, because a number of our clients actually prefer pre-owned homes, but if you are someone who wants something brand new, Hutto is going to have it in abundance for the foreseeable future, because they just keep on building and building and building, and soon enough on the map it's not going to be surrounded by so much green, it's going to be more white and gray for all of the developments yet to come. Now at last, our 5th and final pro in favor of Hutto, Texas is going to be its safety. Most of the people who look at all of the areas I've mentioned are moving with their families, and Hutto quite possibly is at the top of the list as it currently stands, with a crime score of, I believe, around 29. In comparison to the rest of the country, it is significantly safer to live. So while Austin itself, yes, is going to be safe, I'm not insinuating that the rest of it's just going to be way more risky, no, but for Hutto specifically, it is arguably its strongest suit. It has that really going for it, and when you're relocating here with your family, you're going to care about the safety, especially if you're coming from a place where it's been an issue before. more. So at the end of the day, for a number of reasons I've mentioned, Hutto is a great place. But at the same time, for a number of reasons I've mentioned, Hutto might not be right for you. So whether it is Hutto, whether it is Cedar Park, whether it's South Austin, whether it's West Austin, Central Austin, so on and so forth, anything in between, that is what we are here for. We love learning about your lifestyle, getting on that Zoom call, and finding that perfect place that fits your needs, helping people just like you relocate to this great city of Austin, Texas. But the only way we can do that is by you reaching out to us, as so many others have. So do not hesitate. Whether you're 9 days away or 90, go ahead and send us an email, shoot us a text, give us a call any day of the week, any time of day. And as I mentioned, we put out tons of new content each and every week on regards to living in Austin, Texas. So if you haven't already, consider subscribing to this channel and ringing that little bell so that you're notified each and every time we put out a new video. Comment down below with any agreements, disagreements, questions, or video ideas for us to get involved with. Like this video, as it really helps our channel grow and tells us that we're doing a good job providing value for you. Share it with anyone you know who might be wanting to learn more about Austin, Texas. And until the next one, you guys, my name is Frank. This is Living in Austin, Texas, and we will absolutely catch you later.